I think we have a lot of volunteers here right now.
Oh, I'm going to agree with you there.
So now, what is your what was the dreams that you had? Because you said you had some dreams. I remember reading somewhere that you had some dreams, that there was some symbology in that that kind of led you down that path that got you um, connected with Terrence McKenna.
Right. Well, I started dreaming every night about math and geometry. I am not a math lover. And, after it was going on for a couple weeks, and my roommates, I'd wake up and I'd be like, "What time is it on the equator? And what does it mean? Like, if there's a triangle, like, trining that something obtuse." I didn't know. They're like, "You need to start writing this down." So I started writing it down, basically because I thought, well, I don't know, who the heck knows what this is, and it won't go
Right.
away. And so then that led me to trying to understand that, which I said ended up, sending me back into. I was always kind of a science fan, but never really quantum physics. So it led me toward quantum physics and string theory, and then ultimately Pythagorean theory and Einstein and the Mayan calendar. And of course, Terence McKenna, always connected with the Mayan calendar. Oddly enough,
Mm-hmm.
the scholars of the Mayan calendar believe it's a universal time machine, so we can communicate with sentient beings in multiple dimensions or universes. That's a whole other story, but I started getting interested in that, and then I found out that Terence McKenna was he had a living library in Maui where he had gone into all of the rainforest around the world with tribal people and
Oh wow.
identified all the plants that were magical or healing, and then he took samples back with him to Maui to protect them just in case, as we know, sadly, how the rainforests are being decimated for,
Right.
money, basically.
Pretty
So,
much. Yeah.
right? And so I was so enthralled by the idea that he was trying to keep what he called a living library, that and I had recently written my movie, and I had a lot of big directors I was friends with at the time, including Michael Mann and Larry Mortoff, and that were really, really successful directors that were interested in it. And so I thought it was going to make tons of money off the movie. So I wrote
Right.
Terrence, and I was wanting to donate to his, living library. And he ended up sending me back this thing about scholarships going into the Mayan ruins on, and lectures with ethnobotanists and theogens from around the world that were coming to lecture about the Mayan runes and about the magical plants around the Mayan runes and mushrooms, of course, which he's an expert on. I'd had no experience with any of this. I wrote an essay and won the scholarship, so I ended up down there. And this is, I guess, I should like start with the fact that like I was my ex-husband was a very big recording artist on Capitol, and then the
Hmm.
whole music industry kind of failed. So we were one of those like multimillionaires that went from
Right.
riches to rags overnight, literally, where like all my friends and half my
That's
family were
whirlwind.
all living in Malibu with like a Taoist chef and the whole deal, limos everywhere. And then literally I was pregnant, living in the van, with no
Wow.
homeless. So that was my story, and it's like I love that story because it's great to know both sides of everything. And I got to see the really rich, I got to see the really poor. I'm usually somewhere in the middle. But
Hmm.
anyway, the long story short is this: I didn't have any money at that time, and I was a single mother. I'd left my ex-husband, so I was like now in no position to go treating myself to some like trip into the rainforest, and
Right.
so when I won it and it was all expenses paid, it was one of the first, signs to me and manifestations of like, we're sending you carte blanche. You're going and it's costing you no money. And that was one of the first times I realized, wow, not everything takes money. It can happen in ways you don't think, like me winning the scholarship that I didn't even know about because I was trying to like donate to them to a movie that never took off.
Isn't
Uh,
that so crazy? I mean, that's just wild, but that's the way it works, though.
it
I mean,
is the
that's how
way it works.
manifestation works.
It is. It is, and everybody always thinks it's money, and I thought it was money too. Often like I'll have to stop myself and be like, "Wait a minute, stop wishing for the money and wish instead for the
Yeah.
experience because nobody's in
Yep.
love with money. They're in love with a person. They're in love with like even an object. Like I want a sailboat. You know what I mean? Valid. If you
Yep.
want the darn sailboat and all the things that go with the sailboat, God bless you. Go get the sailboat. You know what I mean? It's like I wanted to learn how to surf. I remember and it's very hard to surf in Malibu. It's very local. People are mean. It's cold, and I had my heart set on like learning to surf in Hawaii, which again was totally
Uh,
not in my like
right.
budget of like waitressing with a 2-year-old kind of thing. And
Hmm.
but I watched those movies every day of the Roxy Girls and Oahu, and I put it on my calendar to the day I wanted to go. And I was like, and my boyfriend was like, "Well, you're supposed to be a manifester, so like, manifest it." I'm like, "Right, right," and he's like, "Let's do it." So like, I would watch these movies because I love the movies. I love to see them in their bikinis jumping on the like waves with Diamond Head in the back. I was like upset. I had the posters. I would practice in my room. Okay, so it gets to be the end of October and definitely have not manifested any money to go on this trip. No way I'm going. And now my ex-boyfriend says, "Well, I guess you didn't do it. You didn't make it to Hawaii. You wanted to go at the end of October, beginning of November, perfect season. I guess it doesn't work." And I was like, whoa, yeah, that's not making me really happy right now. I'm like,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
really expecting this. Okay, this is a true story. Honest to God, this sounds incredible, but you just have to know, like, this happens all the time. I get a call the next day, and I used to work at high-end rehabs as a spiritual counselor because I've written a number of spiritual books, as you know. In fact, the book you read is actually goes for like $700 on the rare book list of like when it was called Ultimate Power. It's now part of the frequency. I put it out because who has $700? But uh,
Right.
right, but gee, I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. Anyway.
So
Seth,
manifesting
Oh,
Seth,
Hawaii.
yeah, the
you had a
Hawaii trip. That's right, the Hawaii trip. So I worked at these rehabs, and so all of a sudden I get a call from an ex client at the rehab that had been at the rehab, and she calls me up and she says to me, literally, I've had a relapse. I'm in a hospital. Pat Benatar's got my daughter, and she won't give her back to me. We're supposed to go on a trip
Praise God.
tomorrow. So if I hire you as a sober coach, will you come to Oahu with us and on our surf trip? All expenses paid.
Wow.
I left the
Wow.
next day. And I got to meet Pat Benatar as a caveat. And I was on those waves I'd been watching on the day I'd circled in a way that I never would have thought. Now, would I wish somebody would have a relapse? No. But somehow her experience collided with my desire, and she got to go and take her daughter on the trip she wanted to go, and I got to go on an all expense paid trip.
Wow.
And that's how I learned to surf. And that's one of the most magical things to me because, again, you don't see things like that coming. So I always tell people don't worry about if you don't see how it's coming. Because almost always you're never going to see how it's coming. And that's part of the amazing joy of like when like God's in the divine spirits working in your corner. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. And I'm wishing that for all of you. You can do it, Lenita. You can do it, Mark. Anybody who's listening, you can all do it. Everybody can do it. Just like love it.
Oh, I actually started manifesting before I really understood what I was doing. Because it happens naturally, and it can, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. And it's what people need to understand is when all parts of you are agreed with something, and you put your intent out there, the universe wants to give it to you. Um, the thing is, and this is what I always tell people, is to be really careful what you wish for, though. Be really clear in your mind what you want, because sometimes how it gets brought to you may not be exactly the way you might have hoped. Um, it's so funny because we actually had a somewhat similar manifestation to what happened to you, but it didn't end as well. We went to Hawaii for free, um, kind of whirlwind, and all expenses were paid. But then there were some very bad things that ended up happening along the way, and it literally was almost like a hostage situation by the end, to where we literally escaped to get home.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's like be careful what you wish for. Yeah, we wanted to go to Hawaii. We were hoping, but there were things that happened in the end that just, yeah, it wasn't everything. But it's important to be clear, really clear about what you want, so that when it manifests for you, it comes in a way that is for your higher good.
Right, and you can always add. I mean, I always do. I mean, full disclosure, I am not a part of a church now. I was raised Catholic, but I definitely do pray all the time. And I definitely think that when you are manifesting something, it's always a wonderful thing to say in the most divine, beautiful way for everyone, just to send a prayer of protection
Yes.
around it, And I think also, while we're on that subject, I think especially, anyone who's tuning into this now is probably a very conscious being, and that means that they're very open. And I think it's very important. I tell my clients this because most of the time, people that find their way to me for one-on-one coaching are very high consciousness people to begin with, and we tend to be open because it's empathetic to do that, and because also it's our gift to read and discern frequencies. But that means also that we open ourselves up to a lot of junk with the whole plethora
Yeah.
of vibrations that we're encountering. So I like to tell people, I do this nightly in the morning, and you can do any way that feels good for you. I use Christ Jesus because that's what I like. So I always say, and you can do a version of this with the Divine Spirit or the Force or Buddha or Yoda. I don't know who works for you. Love.
You almost said Yoda.
Yeah, yeah, Yoda. Yoda is awesome. I quote Yoda all the time because
Right?
great spirits
It
are.
may work for someone.
Well, it's really about love, and the frequency of love. And I just always say, in the name of Christ Jesus, I disconnect all cords or energies that are low frequency and let them go. And then I always say, in the name of Christ Jesus, I fill myself with the highest frequency. And I usually say, actually, I exactly say this in case people want to know. Excuse me one second. I just want to take a drink of water.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm going to try and manifest myself to Hawaii.
You know what, Mark? I was going to say, I think you're a good vibe, Mark, and you can manifest anything you want. And I was going to ask you, what have you manifested, Mark? Because I bet you've manifested something kind of like, that, haven't you?
Well, I don't know if I can pull a prime example out, but I will say that I do agree that things get dropped on you sometimes after you have asked them. I'd love to think of one right now, but I can't. But yeah, I've seen evidence of that, definitely. But no, no. I mean, 2 out of 3 of us have manifested Hawaii, so I'm going to try that. I think.
Hey, yeah, yeah. And if you want to do that, I have this 5-step process, which is actually the bonus book that goes with the one you read, Lanita.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, anybody that's listening, if you want to write me at morningmayan@gmail.com, I'll send you the 5-step process on how to manifest. It's just so, because it's kind of like bike riding. Once you get it, it's really easy. But in the beginning, sometimes you just need it broken down to some simple steps. Like, tell me what to do, sister. You know what I mean? It's just like, how do I do it? And
Exactly.
then you learn, and then you realize, like Mark, you're saying, you're like, you see things coming in, and it's just when you start to realize a little more, like, oh, I see, it comes in mostly when you're thinking positive things. Like, that's another thing I should like mention to your listeners.
Listeners.
Yeah, that, well, so many times you're like bent on something and you want, but of course, a lot of times there's fear around it. Oh, the guy's not calling me, or the money's not coming in for the rent, or whatnot, and you want to talk about that, and it's totally natural to talk about that. And I'm all for not denying your feelings. Let's just go there, because you need to take movements based on the fact, like, I need to make money, or maybe I need to lose weight so my boyfriend's attracted to me again, whatever, or maybe nothing, or get a better relationship. But I think it's really important just to stay in a very high frequency and stay focused on the picture of you want. So, in other words, say you want a job. Say you hate your job. Let's go like the job. The job stinks. You have people that are low vibrational. They're always like talking crud about everybody, and it's a bad environment. You're not making enough money. Okay, so instead of like talking about that, that's all really real. Instead, you're gonna want to talk about like what you want, and this is like this. It's just reconditioning yourself. So you're gonna want to talk about, which is the exact same thing, but different languaging, which I might add is a spell. In old time witchcraft, a spell is just language and what you say and what you weave. So instead of weaving demise, worry, and like poverty, you start saying, I'm really excited about that job that's coming in that's really good for me, where like the vibration is great and the people are high frequency, and I have room for like to grow, and I'm making great money, and I feel creative, and I feel free. I'm so excited about that job coming in. So you just keep focusing on that thing that you want, like, and you just stay fixated on it. That's the difference between people that like bring things in that don't. You stay fixated on what you want. It doesn't matter what it looks like, because remember, you don't know how it's coming in. So it's just like, if you know it's coming, if you just say fixated and believe me, it will show up. It always does. I can tell you, I work with people day after day, and it shows up when you're like, I know it's coming, because I'm not going to stop. Like, I recently had a bestseller, not only in nonfiction but fiction. I wrote these mushy Christmas books that are the cutest thing in the world, based on my hometown of Kissing Bridge. This is like Christmas obsessed crazy town. Nothing like my frequency books at all, you know what I mean? But it was like, I
Yeah.
really wanted to be a number one best-selling author in fiction too. Every day before I got out of bed, I would be like, I'm a number one best-selling author in holidays. I'm a number one best-selling author in holidays. Every day I got out of bed, and one day I woke up and I clicked on, and I was a number one best-selling author in holidays. And I knew I was going to be, because I wasn't going to stop until I was. I was going to figure it out. I was going to make it better, and I was going to keep going. And that is the kind of energy you need to have. And when you have that energy, it comes in really simple. You don't even have to climb the mountain. Like, it's no struggle. It's just the fact that you're that committed means it comes up to meet you.
You know, it's funny you were talking about this because I have a friend who is wanting to manifest something, and it's a little bit of a different type of a manifestation because they've had a UFO experience. Well, they've had two UFO experiences, but they want to have another close up UFO experience. So they want to manifest having a up close experience now as opposed to trying to remember the experience that they had. um, what would you suggest for them as a way to try to manifest that?
Well, from my experience, uh, aliens or sentient beings or astral travelers or astronauts, whatever terminology you want to put or verbiage you want to put on that. Uh, the whole flying saucer thing is really so pedestrian. Let's just go there. It's so third dimensional. I mean, who needs a machine? I can assure you, anybody on higher dimensions does not need like a vehicle. It's like it's just
Yes, true.
that's just third dimensional thinking. So that said, if she wants to connect with
It's a
these,
he, but
or
yeah.
if he wants to connect with these beings, and first of all, I would truly say to have himself ask himself if these are higher dimensional good beings, because I mean, let's just face it, just because somebody's dead or on another dimension does not mean they're brilliant.
Right?
Uncle
Yeah.
Joe, just because he died, does not become Einstein. Okay, it's just like, so there's higher frequency beings, there's divine masters, there's angels, and then there's random people running around the astral realm. Okay, so that said, I would say be very careful. Like, are you sure you really want to reconnect with them? And do they have anything to offer you? If he still does want to find some clarity or connect with them, I would totally recommend going into the forest and sitting by a river and going into meditation and just simply asking them to communicate with them, and they'll show up. You got to get a really high frequency, so that's nature's the highest frequency. So if you're trying to
Not a lot
get,
of nature in Hollywood, but there is in Topanga, right? So,
well, I that's where I started channeling White Eagle. I was around a huge crystal
oh,
in Topanga. Yeah, and it's
oh
like,
yeah, I used to live in Topanga actually.
really, do you remember that
Yeah,
crystal shop?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, they had this huge 1,200 pound crystal. It's like, I didn't
Oh
know anything
wow.
about that. Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, I was like the total newbie, like, what's happening? Da-da-da. But, that said, it's been a long road and it's awesome. And, yeah, you can find nature, or if you can't, get in the bathtub. Water is the best conductor. I found. So
That's a good idea, actually. I like that.
yeah, yeah. In fact, when White Eagle first showed up to me, the first thing he said to me was, "I'm here to teach you the simple things in life: earth, air, fire, water." And then he said, "We'll begin with water." And then every time after that, because I'd gone and sat in a forest next to a river, just like I told your listeners to do if they're trying to connect with a
Mm-hmm.
divine being, and then it's like every time I was like in the shower or uh, getting a drink from a water fountain, anytime I was water, I'd start to hear these teachings from White Eagle, which then became my first book. But it got to be, the best thing I think about connecting with divine beings as opposed to random entities running around, which, like, let's just go there. Don't know, like, you don't want to be dealing with those entities. First of all, they're stupid. Second of all, they might not have your best interest at heart. They're just trying to like get their thrills off by, like, getting some human experience from their realm. You want to go to the highest frequency. You always want to say the highest divine being, that you can connect with. That's like fully, I mean, don't mess around with that. I had this guy who's like, I was like, channeling some Nazi commander. I'm like, why? Why would you
That's
connect to
interesting. Yeah,
that?
why would you want to make a connection with? I don't know. That's crazy.
Right. So, just shoot higher. You know what I mean? Definitely. And yeah, and they're really funny. Like when they, speak with you and communicate with you, it's almost always like the joke's on you, because I get the idea that, like, you know, we're super brilliant beings, and on earth we're just like bumbling around like toddlers, and we're almost funny to all our friends that are on the other side. We're like, oh my god, would you look at what an idiot they're being right now? And it's like, and sometimes I'll get that bleed through and I'll catch them all laughing, and I'll be like, you wait till I get back up there, I'm gonna kick some butt. It's like, but it's always, but then it's always like, the truth is like, truly, like, life is just a joy. It's just like, we should be laughing. I mean, it's like most of the time it's not that serious.
That's awesome, and that very very good advice, actually. Um, I don't think I don't think people can actually know the nature. Um, of the beings, if they see a UFO, no matter what shape it is, you can't really know unless you actually have a personal, like close encounter experience with it, like they actually come out or they take you. You won't know what kind of being you're dealing with because all you're seeing is a vehicle if they're coming from somewhere else and they're using a way to get into this dimension. So there's no, I don't know how they would know if they're actually, being contacted by a higher or lower dimensional being.
Well, your heart will
Because
tell you that, Lenita. Just ask just go
true.
from your heart. Just really, everything divine is about love. And that's the language of God is love. Loving acts, love, love, love.
Yes.
All of us are connected through the space, which is love. So therefore, all beings understand the language of love. So just like if you're even and I tell this to people, I do a lot of ghost busting, for people in their places, which is
Uh-huh.
always the same thing. A fearful being that's hanging on, afraid to let go to what they don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Same story every time, no matter what happened. But it's always just open up through the heart and love them, whether it's like a scary entity or something, and just be like, I'm gonna send you on your way now, kind of thing. Any being connects through love. Animals too. Everybody, and even like in real relationships, like a lot of people are suffering in their love relationships or their friendships, or they have parental disagreements and you don't see eye to eye, blah blah blah. And I just say, life is short, and parents and people die very often, or change course, and it's a trite thing we hear all the time. But it's never too late to just open up your heart and be like, this is stupid for us to fight because I love you. And, that's when you win. And that's when everybody wins. And
Yep.
that's when you're bringing the divine down to earth, And so,
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny. It's so funny that you actually mentioned that, working with the paranormal fixes for people and stuff. Because in the second hour, we're actually going to talk about a situation very similar to that arose during the break that we had for the show. My daughters are here in the studio with me tonight because we actually had a whole lot of a very strong paranormal experience over the break, and that's kind of going to be everything that we're going over during the second hour tonight. Um, so yeah, but that's actually how we dealt with it too. You know, yeah, love.
good,
So
good.
that's really good advice to everyone out there. Really, really good advice. Now we're getting ready to where we've got maybe 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure before we go tonight that you have time to kind of go over, what your books are so everybody knows that they're out there, and give information, as far as where they can find you online and stuff if they want to get in contact with you, and through your Facebook, your Twitter, websites, anything like that, so that everybody knows how to get a hold of your books and stuff. So if you want to go ahead and
Okay.
give
Thanks, Lanita. Okay. Well, the easiest way is Morning Mayan, like good morning, and then Mayan, like Mayan calendar. Morning Mayan is pretty much my moniker for everything. So if you want to get a hold of me directly and write me, it's morningmayan@gmail.com. If you want to watch any of my 400 videos on manifesting and frequency and raising your energy and anything you want to know, basically, I have told there for free. And definitely, please go watch that Morning Mayan on YouTube. I have all my friends on Facebook. I don't know. I'm not savvy enough to have like some fan page, so sorry about
Oh, you
that.
don't
Like,
have a fan page. Okay.
I know I'm not cool. Twitter, Morning Mayan again. And if you want to, know anything about me, I also have morningmayan.com as my website. If you want some personal one-on-one coaching you're working on, I work with a lot of people on dating and love. It's kind of my specialty, and that makes me really happy to help people connect. But I'm manifesting or empowerment, and definitely if you're having any paranormal activity and you need clarification, or I know when I started channeling White Eagle, I was really frustrated because I would go to all these seminars with so-called experts, and they couldn't tell me what was happening to me because basically White Eagle is such a divine master. And so I feel really honored to channel White Eagle. And so if people are having, really astral projections, or they're clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, having lucid dreams, or things that they just don't understand and they need somebody to help them deal with that, that I'm the person. Well, White Eagle's the person, actually, because he's got his whole, lesson plan. And I'm thinking your daughters are part of our tribe, and you too. I
Yeah, they
can't wait
are.
to
They
get to
are.
know all
Yeah.
of you. Um, Thank you so much for having me on and giving me this opportunity. Oh, my books, just FYI. I
Yes.
do
Yes.
have
Yes.
my book, The Frequency, which Lenita was the narrator for, and which is awesome. Who doesn't love audio? And it is a combination of the 5-step process on how to manifest based on all the lectures I gave over the years. I developed a really easy 5-step process when I was working with clients, seeing what worked for them and what I did. Came up with this really great, really easy. And then I combined it with the channeled frequency information. When I was in the rainforest, I channeled the whole science of frequencies, which is, this was prior to The Secret. But you know what? When divine information comes down, it comes down multiple times. So it's all the same thing,
Yep.
and I'm not taking credit for it because
Yep.
the Hicks and Abraham said it before White Eagle came in, and White Eagle said it before they did when he channeled through somebody else, and all the divine people have been saying it forever. So it's the same thing, but it's said in a really divine, lovely language, I think, White Eagle's version. And so that's on sale right now for 99 cents on Amazon, The Frequency. And if you wanted a little more like just case study, which I think is really helpful, when you're kind of trying workshopping your own stuff, Secrets the Secret Never Told You is my other best-selling book on manifesting.
Awesome. 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 Oh gosh. I think we're almost out of time. We have a little bit of time left. Um, yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that it has been an absolute honor working with you. And what you were saying about, actually getting that information before The Secret came out, information like this is something that is universal knowledge. And
Right.
it isn't put out there, just to a single individual. It's often given to many people. Some people share it because it is meant to be shared. Some people keep it to themselves because they don't understand that they're meant to share it. But it's information that is meant to go out to the world, and so that's how it comes out. I actually found out about The Secret after kind of being given the knowledge of it. And then somebody's like, oh, you're talking about the law of attraction. I'm like,
Right.
am I? You know,
Right, right,
because
right.
I hadn't heard about it, but I understood it because the information was given to me through a visitation that I had of my own from beings. And so this is something that I think comes to people as it's meant to, and it's meant to be shared because it has to be shared. It's important that people understand this so that they don't give away the power of their futures and their destinies, to just other people outside. You have the power to manifest and control the direction of your life, but you need to understand how you're doing it so that you don't put it in the wrong direction by accident.
Oh, you're so right. And a lot of people will often say, "Well, what you're teaching sounds so selfish." And I said, "Oh, it's selfish, all right, because I have an agenda, and that is agenda is to save this planet." And I know that
Mm-hmm.
once people learn how to manifest for themselves, then they can understand that we can all start manifesting for a better planet, because it's going to take all of us.
And we definitely need it. Definitely need it. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Linda.
Thank you so much for having me, and everybody, happy solar eclipse.
Yes.
Point your ships toward the destination you want to go. A big gust of winds coming today, and God bless you all, and thank you so much for having me on. And bye, Mark.
Goodbye. And I listened to your audiobook today. It was very good. A very motivational message. It's. I'm going to try and find those high frequencies myself, I think.
Yay,
Do that.
awesome.
Do that. All right, you
See, one more
guys.
person that's been helped.
Thanks for having me on, Lanita. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.